Angolan musician Coreon is joining me in studio. He recently released his album Binario in South Africa and is here to tell us all about it. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for coming in.
It was a pleasure coming here.
Now we're talking about Binario. Tell me about the album. We were just talking about its online launch.
Yes.
Tell me about the journey we hear when we listen to Binario.
Well, Binario is it's my I like to say second and a half album because my debut album was in 2010, back home in Angola, and then I did a collaboration project with a few DJ friends, which was inspired by my first album, but it was a very experimental take on it with a few new songs. And this is my second full length album of original songs. Just like my previous work, it is trilingual, although this one is mainly in Spanish because since I'm from Angola, so Portuguese is my first language. English became my second language because I was educated in the US, and Spanish kind of became my third language and the one I use. I use actually all three throughout my day, I mean.
Please only use one in this interview because I'm not going to be able to speak the other two.
Yeah, so it's sort of art reflecting life. So this album I was inspired by my fans in Angola actually. There's a song that I made in Spanish in one of my previous albums, which they really appreciated. So they kept asking me to make more music in Spanish, and so it was sort of my thank you to my fans who've been supporting me the past 5 years. That I made this album. So most of the songs are in Spanish, and then there's a few in English and a few in Portuguese.
Now, what genre would you say you fall into? Because I was trying to pinpoint it, and I can't.
Well, I really avoid the genre labels simply because I make fusion music for the most part. I really like to take what I like the most about Angolan and African music and then combine it with my favorite things about other genres of music. Obviously in this one, since I'm using the Spanish language, I've also allowed to use a lot of Latin sounds from bachata, from merengue, from samba, and I've mixed it with kizomba, with zouk, with kilapanga, and a few other things that inspire me about African music, sort of combining it in a way that I think is contemporary and harmonious, because at the end of the day I think it's really important for me to communicate in a simple way, just as if I were having a conversation with the audience. I think it's very important to speak in a way that other people understand so that they can reply and we can start a nice conversation when I'm on stage or when people are experiencing my music videos online or listening to the album.
Now, Angolan and African sounds, but you were telling me you grew up in the States, you went to school there. How has that part of your life influenced these Angolan and African sounds?
Well, I think the fact that I grew up mainly outside of my home country made me, I would say, even more proud of my heritage in a way, and I really made it a point to stay connected to my roots when I was in the US, because what I've noticed many times, especially when people immigrated, is they try so much to fit in that they lose a little bit of what they have that I think makes them different or special in that way, because sometimes people are scared to stand out for that particular reason. So I think the fact that I was picked on so much for being different, because I had a different accent, because my name was sort of unusual to some people, or some of my habits were unusual to certain people, I think made me want to explore more why am I different in that US context, and what are positive ways to portray that. So obviously in music I do that, just as I grew up in the US, I grew up in Virginia, which is basically, it's in the south of the US, so of course country music, for example, is an influence that is present in my music, although it is
Are you a
combined.
country music fan?
I do like some country music. It's very heartfelt, and since I'm a romantic, I think
Are you a romantic?
Yes, I'm into things that speak to the heart, and I think country music does that. So I do take that just like I use R&B or urban music references in, for example, some of the beat patterns that I use when producing music. I think it's really important to just keep an open mind when it comes to art.
What's your favorite song on the album?
That is a very difficult thing to
I know, I don't know why
say.
I keep asking it to people. I always get the same answer. It's so hard. It's like asking to choose.
It's difficult. I have a few favorites. As I said, most of the album, it's a very romantic journey because it talks about love and it talks about my outlook on life. So I have several. I would say it's maybe some of the standouts are I'm shooting a music video for a song called El Amor, which means like the love. Here in Cape Town, and another song which actually I just shot the video for in New York, It's called "It's Not Okay," which is a song in English, and it's about my experiences overcoming sort of being bullied, especially for various reasons along life, because I was an immigrant, because I was African in a different country, because of a certain personality trait, and I really try to empower people, well, to love themselves and to love everybody else, no matter what language I sing in and what genre I'm exploring with that particular song.